Australia's deepest mine begins in one of the harshest landscapes on Earth, in the middle of northwest Queensland, where summer temperatures can push past 45 degrees Celsius and the landscape is dominated by dry riverbeds and red dust. A gigantic industrial scar cuts into the earth beside the city of Mount Isa. But the real mine isn't what you can see on the surface. Beneath the smokestacks, processing plants and headframes lies a hidden world that descends almost 2 kilometres underground. A maze of tunnels stretches for hundreds of kilometres through ancient black shales loaded with copper, lead, zinc and silver. Temperatures rise high enough to kill unprotected workers. The surrounding rock is under such immense pressure that entire tunnel walls can violently explode without warning. And yet for nearly a century, miners have continued pushing deeper into the crust, carving one of the largest underground mining systems ever built in Australia. This is the Mount Isa mine, a mining complex so enormous it created an entire city around itself. Over its lifetime, the operation has mined hundreds of millions of tonnes of ore and generated wealth on a scale that transformed Queensland forever. The mine has produced vast quantities of copper, zinc, lead and silver, along with gold, cobalt and other critical metals hidden within the sulfide ores. Some of the underground workings plunge close to 2 kilometres beneath the surface, making it the deepest mining operation in Australia. The tunnels are so extensive that if you laid them end to end, they would stretch for hundreds upon hundreds of kilometres beneath the desert. Entire underground road networks exist far below the surface, complete with crushers, workshops, electrical substations, pumping stations, and ventilation systems powerful enough to move millions of cubic meters of air every hour. But Mount Isa almost never existed at all. The story begins in 1923, when a prospector named John Campbell Miles arrived in the region searching for gold. Instead, he discovered strange dark rocks rich in heavy metallic minerals. At the time, nobody realized the true scale of what lay hidden beneath the ground. The area was isolated, brutally hot, and incredibly difficult to access. Early investors were skeptical, but as exploration continued, it became clear that this wasn't a small mineral occurrence. It was one of the richest concentrations of base metals ever found on Earth. Mount Isa Mines Limited was formed in 1924, and by 1931, full mining operations were underway. Over the next century, the mine would survive economic collapses, world wars, metal price crashes, and technological revolutions, eventually becoming one of the most important mining operations in Australian history. And the deeper miners pushed underground, the more extreme the conditions became. At shallow levels, underground mining is already dangerous, but at depths approaching 2 kilometres, the Earth itself becomes hostile to human survival. Temperatures naturally increase with depth due to the geothermal gradient. And at Mount Isa, the virgin rock temperature deep underground can exceed 50 degrees Celsius. Without artificial cooling and ventilation, miners simply could not survive for long. The air underground has to be constantly replaced using giant ventilation fans on the surface. Fresh air is forced down intake shafts, while hot contaminated air is removed through exhaust systems. Some of the fans are among the largest industrial ventilation systems in the country. Even ventilation alone isn't enough. At extreme depths, many sections of the mine require refrigerated cooling systems. Chilled water is pumped underground through insulated pipelines to reduce air temperatures in active workings. Massive underground cooling stations operate continuously to stop temperatures from becoming lethal. Every vehicle operating underground adds additional heat. Every drill, pump, electrical cable and blasting operation contributes to the thermal load. In some areas, simply touching the surrounding rock can feel warm. Then there's the pressure. Nearly 2 kilometres underground, the weight of the overlying crust becomes immense. The rock surrounding tunnels is under enormous stress, and when that stress suddenly releases, it can trigger violent rock bursts. Entire slabs of rock can explode from tunnel walls with the force of small bombs. To stop tunnels from collapsing, miners install huge quantities of rock bolts, steel mesh, and sprayed concrete called shotcrete. Many underground drives resemble reinforced bunkers more than tunnels. Seismic monitoring systems constantly track micro-earthquakes deep underground, giving engineers warning signs when stress begins building in dangerous areas. Moving people and ore through a mine this deep is another engineering challenge entirely. High-speed underground elevators called cages transport workers through vertical shafts that descend far below the surface. Some shifts involve nearly an hour of travel time just to reach active mining levels. Ore is hauled through underground crushers and conveyor systems before eventually being lifted back to the surface for processing. The deeper the mine expands, the more complicated and expensive every aspect of mining becomes. Simply pumping water out of the workings requires enormous infrastructure. Without constant pumping, large sections of the mine would rapidly flood. And despite all of this, Mount Isa kept expanding. By the mid-20th century, the operation had become one of the largest mining complexes in the world. The Mount Isa region evolved into a giant, polymetallic province producing copper, lead, zinc and silver on a massive scale. Entire smelters and processing plants were constructed beside the mine to handle the immense volume of ore coming from underground. At its peak, Mount Isa Mines was one of Australia's largest companies and among the nation's biggest exporters. The mine didn't just produce metals either, it pioneered mining technologies now used globally, including the IsaMill grinding system and the IsaMelt process, innovations that reshaped mineral processing around the world. But what makes Mount Isa especially fascinating is the geology itself. The ores here are unbelievably ancient. The rocks hosting the mineralization formed around 1.65 billion years ago during the Proterozoic, when northern Australia looked nothing like it does today. At the time, this region was part of a vast sedimentary basin undergoing crustal extension and rifting. Thick sequences of black muds, silts, and carbonaceous sediments accumulated in deep marine environments over enormous spans of time. Beneath the basin, heat and tectonic activity drove huge volumes of metal-rich brines through the sediments. These hot saline fluids carried dissolved zinc, lead, copper and silver through porous layers deep beneath the ancient seafloor. When chemical conditions changed, sulfide minerals began precipitating inside the sediments themselves, forming giant stratiform accumulations of galena, sphalerite, and pyrite within black shales and siltstones. Some of the earliest mineralization likely formed while the sediments were still soft and only partially lithified. But the deposit did not remain untouched. Hundreds of millions of years later, the region was caught up in the isonorogeny, a massive mountain-building event that compressed, folded, and metamorphosed the entire basin. The once flat sedimentary layers were deformed into complex folds and fault systems. Sulfide-rich horizons were brecciated, stretched, and remobilized deep underground. New hydrothermal fluids moved through the fractures, adding copper-rich mineralization associated with silica and dolomite alteration. In some areas, chalcopyrite, bornite, and pyrrhotite flooded through structurally weakened zones, creating the copper ore bodies Mount Isa would later become famous for. The result is a deposit that preserves evidence of both ancient sedimentary mineralization and later tectonic overprinting. Even today, geologists still debate exactly how much of the ore formed during the original basin processes and how much was modified during later deformation. Unlike Australia's famous quartz reef goldfields, Mount Isa is fundamentally a sulfide system. Most of the metals are locked inside minerals like chalcopyrite, sphalerite, and galena, rather than occurring as free native metals. The copper ores are especially refractory, meaning the metals are chemically bound within sulfides and require crushing, flotation, and smelting to extract. This isn't the kind of mine where prospectors pull nuggets from quartz veins. The wealth here exists as vast, invisible concentrations of microscopic sulfide minerals spread through black shale and brecciated rock deep beneath the crust. And even after nearly a century of mining, the scale of the deposit remains staggering. The underground workings extend for hundreds of kilometres. Some shafts descend almost 2 kilometres into the earth. Entire ore zones continue far below current mining levels. In many places, the mineralization opens at depth, meaning the system likely extends even deeper into the crust than humans have ever mined. For decades, Mount Isa represented the absolute frontier of deep underground mining in Australia, a place where engineering, geology, and human endurance collided beneath one of the harshest environments on the continent. Today, parts of the original copper operations are winding down after roughly 70 years of continuous underground operation. But the legacy of Mount Isa remains enormous. The city itself exists because of the mine. Billions upon billions of dollars worth of metal have been extracted from beneath the desert. Entire generations worked underground in conditions few people could even imagine. And hidden below the Queensland outback is still one of the greatest accumulations of metal ever discovered in Australia. A gigantic Proterozoic ore system that has been burning wealth out of the earth for nearly 100 years. I hope you found this as interesting as I did, and as always, thanks for watching. Before I end this video, I'd like to give a big shout out to my Patreon and YouTube members. Thank you so much to everyone that helps to support this channel.